My friend broken up my parents' marriage by secretly dating my father, and I never thought I'd have to become a spy in my own home to prove it. The last normal day of my life was a Tuesday. I remember because my mom was making her famous lasagna, the one my dad always joked he married her for. The whole house smelled like garlic and basil. My best friend was there, of course, her legs draped over the arm of our living room sofa like she owned the place. She'd been doing that since we were kids, since my mom started calling her my second daughter. She was part of the furniture, part of the soundtrack of our lives, the one who knew my mom's coffee order by heart and could make my stoic dad laugh with a single perfectly timed eye roll. That's why I didn't see it coming. The signs were there, I guess, if you were looking for them. My dad, a man who considered a new pack of socks a fashion splurge, had suddenly started wearing fitted shirts. He was working out. There was a new, expensive cologne on his dresser. My mom called it his Renaissance. She'd smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I just thought it was a weird midlife thing. I was busy with my own life, navigating college applications and friend drama, with my best friend as my chief advisor. The first crack in my perfect world wasn't a loud, shattering thing. It was a quiet, digital ping. I was home early from a canceled study group. My dad's laptop was open on the kitchen counter, charging. I was grabbing a soda when the notification popped up, a text message preview from an unsaved number. The message was, "Can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel so alive." My blood didn't run cold. It just stopped. Then it rushed back, hot and shameful, to my face. Because right below the message, where the contact name should have been, was a username, SunshineGirl92. I knew that username. I'd seen it on Instagram captions, on old Xbox Live profiles, on the login screen for her favorite stupid baking blog. It was my best friend's handle, the one she'd had since 7th grade. The back door opened and my dad walked in, humming. "Hey, kiddo," he said, dropping his keys in the bowl. I slammed the laptop shut. The sound was too loud, too violent. "You okay?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a smile. It felt like a crack in my face. "Fine. Just surprised by a pop-up quiz notification." He nodded, buying the lie, and walked over to the fridge. I stood there, my hand still on the closed laptop, feeling the phantom vibration of that message through the metal casing. My best friend, my dad. The words, "last night" and "you make me feel so alive," spun in my head, a toxic carousel of betrayal. I spent the rest of the evening in a daze. I watched them. At dinner, I saw how she passed him the salt, her fingers brushing his for a second too long. I saw the way he looked down, a faint smile playing on his lips. Were they always like this? Had I just been blind? The lasagna, my favorite, tasted like ash in my mouth. My mom chatted about her day, completely unaware that the foundation of our family was crumbling right there at the dinner table. The laughter, the clinking of forks, the warm, familiar kitchen, it all felt like a sick, elaborate play, and I was the only one in the audience who knew it was all a lie. That night, lying in bed, I replayed every interaction, every hug that felt too long, every joke that felt too private. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it was a vicious, fast-growing weed, strangling every happy memory I had. The girl sleeping in the guest room down the hall, the one I trusted with every awkward, embarrassing, joyful moment of my life, was now a stranger. And the man who'd taught me to ride a bike was her accomplice. I didn't know what to do. Confront her? Confront him? The evidence was one text message. They could explain it away. They could call me crazy, paranoid. I felt the truth, a cold, hard stone in my gut, but I had nothing to hold on to. I needed more. I needed proof that couldn't be denied. As I stared at the ceiling, the faint glow of her phone charging in the next room felt like a beacon of their shared secret. And in that moment, my confusion began to harden into a cold, singular resolve. If they were going to live a lie, I was going to find the truth, no matter what it cost me.
The next week was the longest of my life. I moved through my days like a ghost, smiling on autopilot, answering questions with monosyllables. I was a spy in my own home, and every moment was an exercise in torture. I'd watch my mom hug my best friend goodbye, and my stomach would clench so hard I felt sick. I'd hear my dad laugh at one of her jokes, and the sound would feel like a physical blow. The worst part was the lying, to my mom's face. "You're quiet, honey," she'd say, feeling my forehead. "Are you feeling okay?" "Just tired, Mom. Finals." The lie was ash in my mouth. My best friend noticed too. "Dude, what's up with you?" she asked, flopping onto my bed. "You've been, like, weirdly distant." I looked at her, really looked at her. Did her face look different? Guiltier? Or was she just the same person I'd known my whole life? The cognitive dissonance was making me dizzy. Just stressed, I mumbled, turning back to my textbook. You know how it is. She didn't press. Why would she? In her mind, her secret was safe. She had no idea I was living in a nightmare she helped create. I knew I needed hard evidence, something that couldn't be explained away as a misunderstood text. I spent nights scrolling online, my screen dimmed, researching tiny, hidden cameras. I finally settled on one that looked exactly like a white wall charger block. It was disturbingly easy to buy. When it arrived in a plain brown box, I felt a chill. There was no going back now. The day I planted it was a Thursday. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. My parents were at work, and my best friend was in class. The house was silent, accusing. I walked into my dad's home office, the room that always smelled like his old leather chair and coffee. This was his sanctuary, and now it was my crime scene. My hands trembled as I unplugged the old, bulky charger from the outlet behind his bookcase and plugged in the imposter. It looked perfectly innocent. It blended right in. I felt a surge of self-loathing so sharp it stole my breath. Who was I becoming? But then I pictured that text message. You make me feel so alive. And the self-loathing was instantly cauterized by a fresh wave of white-hot anger. They did this. They made me this. The waiting was a special kind of hell. Every day, I'd find an excuse to be alone in the house. I'd lock myself in the bathroom, open the camera's live feed on my phone, and watch an empty, silent office for hours. Nothing. Just the slow track of sunlight across the carpet. I started to doubt myself. Had I imagined it all? Was I just a crazy, paranoid daughter destroying my family over a hunch? The guilt was a heavy blanket, suffocating me.
Then it happened. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was scrolling through the recorded footage, my eyes glazing over from the monotony, when I saw it. The office door opened. My dad walked in, and a moment later, she followed. My breath hitched. I turned up the volume on my headphones. He didn't sit at his desk. He leaned against it, crossing his arms. She closed the door behind her, that familiar, easy smile on her face. It was the smile she used to reserve for our late-night gossip sessions. She's at the library, my dad said, his voice clear through the microphone. We've got about an hour. He meant my mom. My mom, who was probably picking up groceries for the dinner he'd supposedly be home late for. Good, my best friend said, her voice a purr I didn't recognize. She walked over to him, stopping so close their shoes were almost touching. She reached out and straightened his tie, a gesture so intimate, so wifely, that a silent scream built in my throat. I missed you. I saw you yesterday, he said, but he was smiling, looking down at her like she held the secrets of the universe. That was forever ago, she pouted. Then her expression turned serious. Have you thought any more about telling her? My blood turned to ice. Telling her. My dad's smile vanished. He looked away, toward the window. It's complicated. You know it's complicated. The timing, it's always complicated, she whispered, her hand moving from his tie to his chest. I just want to stop hiding. I love you. He finally looked back at her, and the raw emotion on his face, a face I'd seen tired, happy, angry, but never like this, was a physical wound. He cupped her cheek. I know, he murmured. I love you too. I ripped the headphones out. I couldn't hear anymore. I couldn't watch. I slammed my phone face down on the counter, my entire body shaking uncontrollably. The cold, hard stone of truth I'd been carrying in my gut had just exploded, shattering me from the inside out. I had my proof. It was worse than I had ever imagined. It wasn't just a fling, it was love. They were in love, and they were planning a future that had no place for my mom, or for me. The shaky, crying mess I'd been just moments before was gone. In its place was a terrifying, absolute calm. The hunt was over. I had the weapon I needed. Now, it was time to aim. For 2 days, I carried the video in my phone like a live grenade. I'd catch my reflection in a window and barely recognize the person staring back. My eyes were harder. My smiles, when I forced them, didn't reach them anymore. I was a stranger in my own skin, playing a role in the happy family play while waiting for the right moment to burn the entire theater down. The plan formed in the cold, quiet parts of my mind. I couldn't just show my mom privately. That would allow for lies, for whispered explanations, for my dad to spin it as a mistake or a moment of weakness. No, the betrayal was public. The humiliation had been happening right under our noses. The reckoning would be too. It had to be somewhere there was no escape, no room for denial. It had to be at the dinner table, the very heart of our family's illusion. I knew I had to force the confrontation. They were getting comfortable, reckless. I needed to panic them, to make them slip up. So I sent the text, a single calculated sentence to my former best friend. We need to talk. I know what's really going on with you and my dad. I put my phone on the bed and counted. 1, 1,000. 2, 1,000. The phone lit up, vibrating with an incoming call. Her face flashed on the screen. I let it ring. 4-1000, 5-1000. It rang again. My dad this time. I ignored it. A flurry of texts followed, a symphony of panic. Her, what are you talking about? Her, please just call me. Her, you're misunderstanding everything. My dad, your mother and I are worried about you. We need to speak as a family tonight. A cold smile touched my lips. As a family. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. The trap was set. They were scrambling, and scared people are stupid people. That night, the air in the house was thick enough to choke on. My mom, bless her, was trying to create a sense of normalcy. She'd made a pot roast, my dad's favorite. We just need to all sit down and talk, she said to me gently, mistaking my icy silence for teenage angst. Whatever it is, we can fix it. If only she knew. The thing that was broken couldn't be fixed. It had to be excised. My dad arrived home, his posture rigid. He couldn't look me in the eye, instead focusing on my mom with an exaggerated, nervous affection. "Smells great, honey." He kissed her cheek, and I saw her lean into the touch, a flicker of relief on her face. It made me want to scream. We sat down. The clatter of silverware was deafening. The only sounds were the clock ticking on the wall and the frantic thumping of my own heart. I could feel my dad's gaze on me, a silent plea. Don't do this. My best friend was, notably, absent. The empty chair at the table was a monument to her betrayal. I waited for the perfect moment. It came when my mom, trying to break the tension, asked me about a college I was visiting. "I actually have something I want to show you guys first," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. I placed my phone on the table. It's a video project I'd been working on. My dad's fork clattered against his plate. "Not now, sweetheart," he said, his voice strained. "We're eating." "It'll only take a minute," I said, my eyes locking with his. The message was clear. This is happening. My mom looked confused, but curious. "Oh, is it for a class? Here, we can watch it on the TV." She grabbed the remote, her trust a knife in my gut. As the TV screen flickered to life and I pulled up the screen mirroring app, the room seemed to shrink. My dad had gone pale. "He stopped this," he whispered, but it was too late. I found the file, the one I'd watched 100 times. The thumbnail was a frozen image of the two of them standing too close in his office. I hit play. The footage was stark and clear. There was no sound at first, just the silent, damning image of their intimacy. My mom leaned forward, squinting. "Is that your office, honey? And is that—" She trailed off as my best friend reached out and straightened his tie on screen. Then the audio kicked in. "She's at the library. We've got about an hour." My mom's hand flew to her mouth. "I just want to stop hiding. I love you." "I know. I love you too." The video ended. The screen went black, reflecting our three frozen figures back at us. The silence that followed was the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a world ending. My mom was statue still, her eyes wide, uncomprehending, fixed on the black screen. Then a small, broken sound escaped her lips. It was the sound of a soul breaking. She slowly turned her head toward her dad. Her voice was a ghost of itself. You love her?" Before he could form a lie, I spoke, my voice cold and clear, cutting through the devastation. "So, Dad, is this what you were planning to tell her tonight?" The spotlight was on him. His mask was gone. My mother was shattered, and the war for what was left of our family had officially begun. The silence didn't last. It shattered. My mom made a sound, a raw, guttural sob that seemed to tear itself from the deepest part of her. She shoved back from the table so hard her chair toppled over with a crack against the hardwood floor. She didn't even look at it. Her eyes were locked on my father, wide with a horror so complete it was like watching someone being unmade. 24 years, she whispered, her voice trembling violently. 24 years and you, with her, a child, my child's best friend? The words hung in the air, suffocating and vile. My dad was on his feet, his hands out in a placating gesture. "Sarah, please, it's not what you think. Don't," she screamed, the sound raw and piercing. "Don't you dare tell me what to think. I saw it. I heard it. You love her?" She said the word love like it was a disease. "It was a mistake," he pleaded, his voice desperate, cracking. "A moment of weakness. It's over. I swear to God, it's over." He was lying. He was still lying, even now with the evidence seared into all our brains. The cold fury that had been my anchor surged back, hot and righteous. "Is it?" I cut in, my voice cold and steady, a stark contrast to their emotional chaos. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. I found the message and read it aloud, each word a hammer blow. "He's telling your mom everything tonight. Please don't hate me. I love him." I looked from my dad's ashen face to my mom's shattered one. That doesn't sound very over to me. It sounds like a coordinated strategy. Your strategy. That was the final blow. The last flicker of hope in my mom's eyes died. She looked at my dad not with anger now, but with a bottomless, devastating disgust. You were going to tell me? You and her? You were going to sit me down and present this arrangement to me? She didn't wait for an answer. She turned and fled the room. A moment later, we heard the slam of their bedroom door, the sound as final as a judge's gavel. The second she was gone, the mask fell completely. My dad whirled on me, his face contorted with a rage I had never seen directed at me before. It was pure, undiluted hatred. You, he seethed, his voice low and venomous. You smug, self-righteous little bitch. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? You had to drag it all out into the light. You ruined everything. His words should have felt like bullets. Instead, they felt like a confirmation. I didn't flinch. I stood my ground, the phone still clutched in my hand like a shield. I ruined it? A bitter, hollow laugh escaped me. No, I just turned on the lights. You're the one who infested this house with lies. You did this, you and her. All I did was show Mom the roaches. The analogy hung in the air between us. He took a step toward me, and for a terrifying second, I thought he might actually hit me. But he just stopped, his chest heaving, staring at me as if I were a stranger who had broken into his home. You have no idea what you've done, he whispered, the fight draining out of him, replaced by a hollow despair. Oh, I think I do, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I just gave Mom the truth. What she does with it is up to her, but you don't get to play the victim here, not with me. I turned my back on him. It was the most powerful thing I had ever done. I walked out of the dining room, leaving him standing alone in the wreckage of the life he had chosen to blow up. The air was thick with the smell of cold pot roast and betrayal. My mission with him was complete. The truth was out. But as I climbed the stairs, the sounds of my mom's muffled, heartbroken sobs drifting from behind their locked door, I knew it wasn't over. There was one more person who needed to answer for this, the architect of this chaos, the wolf we had let into our home, my former best friend. And she was still out there, thinking she was in love, thinking she had won. She had no idea her victory had just gone up in flames. I didn't go to my room. I went to the garage, got in my car, and drove. I didn't have a destination, just a compass in my chest pointing toward the epicenter of my rage. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel. The image of my mom's disintegrating face, the sound of my dad's hateful words, it all played on a loop. A horror movie I was starring in. But beneath the fury and the adrenaline crash, a new feeling was creeping in. A hollow, aching grief. I had just nuked my family. I had done the right thing, the necessary thing, but the fallout was going to poison everything for years to come. Somehow, my car found its way to her apartment complex. I sat in the parking lot, engine off, watching the light in her window. I could see her shadow moving around. She was probably waiting for a text from my dad, an all clear that was never coming. The normalcy of that shadow, the sheer ordinariness of her evening felt like the greatest insult of all. I didn't bother knocking. I turned the knob, unlocked, of course. She was always so careless, and walked right in. She was on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling on her phone. She looked up, and her face cycled through a series of emotions. Surprise, then relief, then fear, as she registered the look on my face. Hey, oh my God, I've been so worried, she started, scrambling to her feet. Your texts were so cryptic, and your dad said, my mom knows, I said. My voice was flat, dead. It sucked the air right out of the room. She froze. The color drained from her face. What? What do you mean she knows? How could she? I showed her. I showed her the video of you and my dad in his office, the one where you talk about how much you love each other. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes widened in pure, unadulterated terror. You recorded us? The whisper was barely audible. Did you think you'd get away with it? The dam broke. The cold, controlled anger I'd maintained for weeks evaporated, and all that was left was a raw, screaming hurt. Did you think you could just slide into my family, steal my dad, destroy my mom, and I'd just stand by and watch? That I'd bake fucking cookies with you while you plotted to blow up my life? It just happened, she screamed back, tears starting to stream down her face. We didn't plan it. We tried to fight it, but we couldn't. You have to understand. Understand what? I roared, getting right in her face. That you're in love? Stop saying that. You don't love him. You love the drama. You love the secret text and the sneaking around. You loved the thrill of betraying me, your best friend and my mom, who treated you like a daughter. You're not a tragic heroine. You're a cliché. She was sobbing now, ugly, gasping sobs. "You don't know what we have. It's real. It's over," I said, the finality in my voice making her flinch. "He's choosing his wife, his family, or what's left of it. And you?" I looked around her small, messy apartment, at the life that was so much smaller and shabbier than the one she had tried to steal. "You lost me. You lost my mom. And you just lost him." I turned and walked to the door. I didn't slam it. I closed it softly, the click of the latch a period at the end of our sentence. The drive home was silent. The rage was gone, leaving only exhaustion. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark except for a single light in the living room. My mom was sitting on the sofa, wrapped in the same blanket she'd had at dinner, just staring at the black screen of the TV. She didn't look at me when I came in. "Is she okay?" my mom asked, her voice hollow. I knew she didn't mean me. "No," I said honestly. A single tear traced a path down my mom's cheek. "Good." I sat down next to her, not touching, just sharing the same heavy silence. We were a family of ruins now. The truth was out, the revenge was complete. But as I looked at my mom's broken silhouette, I knew the victory was hollow. We were both free of the lie, but we were prisoners of the aftermath. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that nothing would ever be the same again. I turned and walked to the door. I didn't slam it. I closed it softly, the click of the latch a period at the end of our sentence. The drive home was silent. The rage was gone, leaving only exhaustion. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was dark except for a single light in the living room. My mom was sitting on the sofa, wrapped in the same blanket she'd had at dinner, just staring at the black screen of the TV. She didn't look at me when I came in. "Is she okay?" my mom asked, her voice hollow. I knew she didn't mean me. "No," I said honestly. A single tear traced a path down my mom's cheek. "Good." I sat down next to her, not touching, just sharing the same heavy silence. We were a family of ruins now. The truth was out, the revenge was complete. But as I looked at my mom's broken silhouette, I knew the victory was hollow. We were both free of the lie, but we were prisoners of the aftermath. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that nothing would ever be the same again. The weeks that followed were a numb, gray blur. The house, once filled with the sounds of my mom's humming and the distant chuckle of my dad's sports channels, was now a museum of silence. He was gone. The night of the confrontation, he had packed a suitcase and gone to a hotel. He'd tried to call, to text, to explain, but my mom had changed her number and I had his contact blocked. There were no more lies to listen to. My mom moved through the house like a ghost. She'd spend hours staring out the kitchen window, a cold cup of coffee in her hands. I'd find her standing in front of their open closet, just staring at the empty space where his suits used to hang. The grief was a physical presence in the house, thick and suffocating. We tiptoed around it, and around each other. I tried to be the strong one. I made meals she wouldn't eat. I handled the calls from the lawyer her sister had recommended. I packed up my dad's remaining things into cardboard boxes, my hands steady, my heart a block of ice. Each item, a forgotten tie, a half-used bottle of that expensive cologne, a book on his nightstand, felt like evidence from a crime scene. I was cleaning up the aftermath, but I couldn't clean the stain it left on us. One rainy afternoon, I found my mom sitting on the floor of the living room, surrounded by old photo albums. She wasn't crying. She was just tracing the faces in the pictures with her finger. Our trip to Disneyland, a birthday party, a Christmas morning. I sat down beside her, my throat tight. "I keep looking for the signs," she whispered, her voice raspy from disuse. "In every picture. Was he looking at her differently? Was I too busy? Was I not enough?" She finally looked at me, her eyes pools of a pain so deep I felt myself drowning in it. "What was wrong with me?" "Mom, no," I said, the words cracking. I reached for her hand. It was ice cold. She squeezed a hand, a single, weak pulse of connection before letting go. She believed the words, I could tell, but she didn't feel them. Not yet. The poison of his betrayal had seeped too deep. As for my former best friend, she vanished from our lives completely. She dropped out of her classes and, according to mutual friends who didn't know the whole story, moved to another state to live with a cousin. There was no dramatic final confrontation. She just disappeared. A ghost. Erased from our history. I didn't feel victory. I just felt a vast, empty space where a 20-year friendship used to be. A month after the explosion, I was in my room when I heard it. A sound I hadn't heard in what felt like a lifetime. It was my mom, in the kitchen. She was humming. It was soft and hesitant, broken in places, but it was there. I stood in the hallway, listening, tears welling in my eyes for the first time since this whole nightmare began. They weren't tears of sadness or anger. They were tears of relief. It was the sound of a first, fragile breath after being underwater for too long. I walked into the kitchen. She was at the stove, making pasta. She looked over her shoulder at me, and for the first time, there was a flicker of life in her eyes. Not happiness, not yet, but life. "I'm making spaghetti," she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "I see that," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "It's just spaghetti," she added, a little defensively, as if expecting it to be a metaphor for our broken family. "It looks good," I said, and we sat down, just the two of us, at the dining table that no longer felt like a battlefield. We ate in silence, but it was a different kind of silence. It wasn't the silence of things left unsaid. It was the quiet, exhausting silence of two survivors sitting in the ruins, slowly figuring out how to build something new from the rubble. I got my revenge. I exposed the truth. I burned their secret world to the ground. But as I watched my mom take a small, tentative bite of food, I realized the most important battle wasn't the one I fought against them. It was the one we were starting to fight, together, for us. And for the first time, I thought that maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay.